and we should be there. So, good morning, good evening, and welcome to everybody that is joining our live this morning or evening, afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to our Let's Talk About, and today we will talk about education within mediumship. And as a guest, we have the a lovely Martin Colclough that have a lot of knowledge about education. Have been before he has been involved with the education system within the SNU, and these days running the psych center and involved with independent ministers. So very warm welcome, Martin.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you for having me.
I remember I met you first time, I think it was in 2008.
Yes, at Stansted when I was training
Yes,
to be a teacher.
yes, trained to be a teacher. Yes, a lot of things has happened with both of us since, hasn't it?
Very much.
So yes, only thing that never have happened was growing older. But hey, that's but so I'm just chatting a little while paving is getting on there. So Martin, we are going to talk about education today, but let us just talk a little bit to our viewers out there. So ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome, and I can see Jamie saying good morning there. So good morning, Jamie. Jamie is down from
Morning,
south,
Jamie. Yes.
and Lola is on there as well from Denmark. And I know we have more people watching as well. But so please put your questions and comments in the chat as we will try to answer them on the go. But first of all, Martin, talking about education within mediumship. And saying hi to Eva there as well.
Yeah, hi, Eva.
Yeah. So we had a little short chat before here, and I did watch your live on YouTube last night as well about having fun with mediumship. But Martin, the importance of education within mediumship. We often hear about people that is. I've joined a church circle, have one or two times on the platform and starting teaching circles and things like that. But you have many years been involved within teaching in education. So if you will just start sharing a little bit of your view of education and the importance.
Yeah, I always liken it to other disciplines. A doctor, a footballer, even nurses, a carpenter, a mechanic, a car mechanic, and people that take up those professions go through a system of learning. I mean, can you imagine going to a doctor and saying, you got a pain, you think it's appendicitis, and he's untrained, he goes, oh, I'll have a go at taking that out. Or if you went to a car mechanic. Now, I know some very good mechanics who have done it by tinkering, but if you want the modern cars fixed nowadays, you take it to somebody who knows, who studied, and not that certificates are important, but they've showed you their progress on the wall. And you find with a mediumship that people go somewhere, do a week's course. It could be the Arthur Findlay College, or it could be somebody's centre, or the centres in Scotland and Stafford. They could be going to these places. They do a week's course, and then they seem to think that gives them a badge to go out and teach. But many of them are teaching what the teachers taught them. Now, when a teacher creates a lesson, an exercise for somebody to do, they've put their energy into it. So when they're teaching, they know what they're expecting from the student. And what's done that is the teacher's knowledge. And I'll include all the tutors at the Arthur Findlay College who've been through a rigorous training process. They don't just turn up at the college and they're suddenly a tutor. They go through a rigorous training program, many years of, working the churches, sitting in circles in churches, and that's the culmination of their training. So when they're giving you an exercise, they've learnt over all those years what energy to put into an exercise, what energy to give to the students. Whereas if you've only done a week's course and you've been scribbling down the tutor's exercises and you go to teach them, that person's got no idea what the tutor was looking for when they created that exercise, what they're looking for from the students. So I always think it's, yes, my company gives certificates in mediumship, but certificates aren't important. But being trained by somebody professional is important. Somebody who studied it more than 3, probably more than 10 years. Because I can remember when I started, it was after about 10 years when I started teaching. And up to that point, I was doing education with the Spiritualist National Union. I was taking their certificates. I was gaining knowledge before I was giving knowledge back. And that's the difference between being a teacher and being knowledgeable. If you study, and people without certificates are very good tutors, some of them, but there are those that I think you mentioned when we were in the back room before we went live. You go to some churches and there's a president there who's probably a very lovely person. We're not knocking at anybody here. They've done a week at Stansted. They've run the circle for maybe 2 years. And then they promote somebody to run the circle who's been in the circle. And that's the only education they've had in mediumship. So they're teaching really the same thing that the teachers taught them. But really, you need to get out in the world and go to lots of different places, learning lots of different things, so that I always think when you get a problem with a student, you don't start teaching till the student can't do what you're asking them. That's when you start teaching. Up to that point, you're facilitating, you're giving them an exercise to do. When the student can't carry out that exercise, that's when you start teaching. And that's where the knowledge comes in and the education is important.
Exactly. And I can only agree with you on that one. And yeah, if you haven't been walking the walk, getting that experience, having that learning experience as a personal thing as well, and try to fall in the pitfalls as a medium and as a tutor. But I do agree with you with this. It's so easy to go to a course, workshop, circle, and take, as you say, take those exercises and just present them. But that's not really teaching. That's just presenting exercises. You can find them online or in a book or something like that.
Yeah.
But where the teaching is going on is when you as a tutor can go in and say, whoa, this is not working, try so and so instead, and being within that energy of the student as well, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. And I learned that at Stansted, and I'm not going to mention any tutors, but she was a good tutor I was on my assessment. You do 3 weeks of assessed at different times, through a year. You go back there 3 times to be assessed as an assistant tutor. And because I was so used to teaching in churches, I was standing on top of the students all the time. And she said, no, what you need to do is you need to step back and sit and watch the students. The student will let you know when they can't cope or when it's not working for them. That's when you go and you teach. Teaching isn't about standing in the front of the class and letting all the students know how wonderful you are. It's about keeping your eye on the students. And like you've just said, when they struggle, you can step in. And if I create an exercise, and I've created many over the years, if I create an exercise, it doesn't work for a student, then the best thing to do is ask the student how they can make it work. How can you make that work? And take away from them the pressure that they under scrutiny by the tutor. Take that pressure away and just say, well, how do you think you can make it work? And you'll find the student will react much more responsibly than just regurgitating what you keep giving them. How can you improve that? How would you do that? If it's not working, how far have you got with the exercise? so that you're measuring it all. I believe in measuring. That's why I wrote courses. That's why I run a training company with trained tutors, trained assessors, all to a British national standard, so that they know when they can get in and how they can help the student. So it makes the student feel that they are part of the process, rather than just trying to show the tutor, oh, I can do what you've told me.
Yeah.
You've got to make them think about it.
Yeah, but I believe it takes the ability of the tutor as well to actually be involved and not sure if read is right, but understand the energy that the students are working in.
Yes.
And understand how to see when the student is like, we see that a lot, especially with newer students, when the student is going psychic instead of having spirit with them. And I believe that's a really important learning. Sadly, we see often like the importance of the message that has been taught many places. I think, to me, that's a little bit wrong, because what often happens is, oh, I need to get a message, and then they create a psychic message rather than having the message from the loved one that they actually are working with. They can provide the beautiful evidence, but the message becomes a psychic message. And sometimes they don't really realize, because they have learned the different and this accept of the mechanics within it. And when our loved ones, we just had a short chat about my daughter. My daughter, when she comes from spirit through mediums, she often don't have a lot to say about. She might recognize things that is happening in my life, but she's not coming talking to me about my chakras or angels around me or something, anything like that. But because that wouldn't be a part of her personality, she would never do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find that because there is this focus on giving the message in the end, that sometimes totally devaluates the lovely evidence that have been given.
Yeah. Sometimes they need to be taught the responsibilities of mediumship.
Yeah.
What it actually involves. And you hear many times, sadly, too often, where people have predicted death and all kinds of things.
Oh yeah.
And in all the time I've been a medium, I've never openly predicted death or known that it was going to be a prediction. And I'll give you an example. Why I'm saying that is because I don't believe the spirit world would go to somebody and say, "Oh, just tell them they haven't got long left."
No.
They're coming over soon. And one instance I remember, he's a lovely man. I still remember his name, Gerald Green, his name was. And he used to come with his wife, Mary. And one night I went to Gerald and I was telling him about his time in the army. And he'd been in Egypt during the Second World War, and I could see the pyramids. So he'd obviously been in North Africa and Egypt and that area. I said, and there was a sergeant's or an officer's mess photograph taken, one of these big military photographs so you can see them all, these officers seated at the front, and then it goes up in tiers. He said, yeah. And I said, you know what? I said, they're on about there's going to be a reunion soon. And in his mind, he was going, yes, there is a regimental reunion for the old soldiers. Anyway, 2 days later, I went back to church and Mary was there in tears. What's the matter? I said, haven't you heard? Gerald passed away. So in a way, subconsciously, I believe the spirit world were preparing Gerald by telling him there was going to be a reunion and showing him all his friends from Egypt during the Second World War. But they didn't come out and say, tell Gerald he's going to die in 2 days. No. I can give you another example. I was doing spirit art one day, and I was drawing. It was a lady at the back of the church who I used to work with, not as a medium, but in my professional life prior to being a professional medium. And I was drawing a mother, and I drew this picture, and I said, what was it? Oh, there was forget-me-not. I said, there's a brother who takes forget-me-nots to a grave. Or says, yeah, that was a favourite flower. I said, I just want to draw a tear on your mum's cheek. I said, I'm not sure what she's saying. But she put together the tear and the forget-me-nots, the flowers. Now, when I went back to work a couple of days later, she wasn't in. I went to her brother's died. And again, so inadvertently, it's a prediction, but they don't put it in that way. And I think that's because of your education.
Yeah.
That you learn to monitor the message and you deliver it in such a nice way that you're preparing the recipient for the shock. But there's too many people now going around who are predicting death, doom and gloom. And isn't the reason for mediumship, it's upliftment. That's what I was always told. It was for upliftment.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're making I know the very first message I had was in a church from a medium called Ron Madden, who I mentioned last night in my chat. And then I went for a reading with a lady called Janet Applethwaite. And that's what brought me in. They made me so happy, those two people. The fact that they brought my father back. You know, okay, I didn't have the physical. That's what brought me into it. But they were two very responsible, two very well-trained mediums. You know, one was SNU and certified, and Ron was what you call old school. I actually returned the favour a few years later. He turned up in a circle that I was sitting in, and it was my turn to give messages that night. And I ended up bringing his father through, so we returned the favour. But yeah, education's very important, whether you have a certificate or not. And being educated by someone who has taken the time to educate themselves.
Yeah.
Not just read a book. They've been through, I think you said the word pitfalls. They've been through the pitfalls. They've been through the no's and the constant no's. And they know how to stay calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
And if you're a calm and relaxed tutor, you pass that on to the student.
Yeah.
If you're like last night we were talking about fun, I like to bring fun into my lessons, and the students relax more. Instead you were saying when they start worrying, they've got to give a message, and they're so uptight, they go into the psychic. A well-educated tutor will keep the student in a relaxed, even if they're struggling and they only get 2 pieces of evidence, but the recipient can place them, then they need to be praised, but get them to, how can you build on that? Talking to them all the time. In the churches, you don't get that. Oh, never mind, let's move on. And they leave the student thinking they're rubbish. I couldn't do it. How many people have left church circles because they think they can't do it? So I think the education, we should start by saying the tutors should be educated.
Yes, definitely.
And that's what I'm proud of. All my tutors have got, as I've said before, a nationally recognised. So they could go and teach in school if they wanted to, teach children, but they're teaching mediumship as trained tutors. So they understand mediumship, but they also understand how to teach properly.
Yeah.
Structuring your lessons, thinking about disabled people, thinking about people who speak another language, for instance, you know, blind people. There's blind mediums. I've never heard of a deaf medium. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know of blind mediums in the UK that do fantastic work.
Yeah.
It's all about being professional.
Yes.
I'm just getting a bit dry.
No worries, we'll just take a few comments. There's a hi all from Rhys, lovely Rhys, and Jamie Williamson. As a qualified nurse educator, I'm always surprised by the lack of structure in mediumship training. How can we change this? And he follow up with that.
You refer to the role of facilitator rather than the teacher, and that one size doesn't fit all. Good point, Jamie.
Yes, really. And we have.
Well, to answer, spirit is not about doom and gloom, but it's about love and caring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Jamie who asked about said she was the nurse facilitator?
Yes, that was Jamie.
Yeah. Hi, as a qualified. Yes. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. But when I left the SNU for my own reasons, nothing bad. I just decided it was time to move on. Even while I was still with them, I did the tutor training at the college, but then I went and trained with an outside training company, a proper training company that, like you, as a qualified nurse educator, I'm now a qualified medium educator. And we also have trained assessors. And I don't understand why people are afraid of saying they've got a certificate in something, whether it's the mediumship or the nursing. And the only way they can change it is by saying to people, it's not difficult to do a teaching qualification. I mean, I've got one teacher's, two assessors qualifications. Pardon, excuse me sorry about that. But I can actually assess the assessors to make sure that the standard stays the same throughout our training company. And that's not because I thought that was good. That's because the training company the awarding body who we're with, which is Focus Awards, they inspect us every 12 months. And until spiritualism starts doing that kind of thing, it's the only thing I know where they don't have an inspection, where somebody holds them to task. And I'll give you a good example. In the army, they have military bands, and I'm sure that's the same in every army. But in the British Army, the School of Music is called Kneller Hall. That's Kneller, Kneller Hall, School of Music. They turn out musicians all the time, constant musicians coming and joining regimental bands. And every year, they send out an inspection team to make sure the military bands are performing to the standards they've taught. Now, the problem with spiritualism, let's say spiritualism, not the mediumship, and I'm including all spiritualism here, not just organized, the whole of spiritualism. Too many people think it's okay to do what we've already talked about, do a week's course, go out and start teaching. But they don't know how to teach. They are just putting forward a lesson. So somebody mentioned it, they're facilitating. And when the students struggle, and I know because I've been in this situation, I haven't always been a trained educator. I was a beginner in circle and I was getting it really quick. My father died and I started hearing voices straight away. How do I do this? And I can remember saying I was going to do some courses. And this man said to me, he was a lovely man, but I don't agree with him. He said, you don't need to educate yourself. Spirit will teach you everything. Now, I knew that was wrong. So I've been on a constant journey since then. Learn something, and pass that on. But I like to say I got qualified. When I was in the SNU, I got qualified. I had several diplomas, several certificates. And now my own training company, I haven't just been given the qualifications. I had to be assessed by other assessors in the company. So again, qualified again as a minister, as a medium, as a healer, as a trance medium. And to me, it's important that if somebody books me and they say, well, how long have you been studying? I say, well, I can show them what I've studied, what I've got, what my credentials are. The same as a doctor puts his BMA certificate, British Medical Association certificate, that's on the wall. The Royal College of Nurses, I think it is, they have this, they now have to pass a degree to be a nurse. Motor mechanics are passing national vocational qualifications. Even footballers have to train and be taught for all those years. Before they're earning millions of pounds, they're cleaning the professional players' boots. There's a system. And until spiritualism realizes that we need this system and some regulation, I'm sorry, Jamie, I don't think we'll ever change it.
No. So,
and the regulatory body needs to be independent. It can't be one of the big organizations, because the big organizations in the UK, there's two big ones. There's the Greater World and the SNU. They want their religion taught their way. Mediumship's nothing to do with religion. It's just part of religion, the spiritualist religion, whether it's Christian spiritualism, independent spiritualists, national spiritualists. But the spiritualism needs an independent body where people can go and get educated to teach the teachers.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now. But thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, and often we hear this. Oh, I'm born with this gift, and I'm being taught by spirit. But my response sometimes can be, well, I'm born with the ability to use a knife. So with a lot of education, I might be a surgeon. Without the education, I might be a mass murderer. You know, it's.
I say something similar. It's like if you when you go to school and you want a qualification in, let's say, geography. The teacher just doesn't give you a book and say, "There's an atlas. Read that. It's got everything you know. You'll pass your course." The teacher's been educated from the moment he left school, or she left school, they left school, went to college, went to university, and came out saying they can teach geography. You can't just give somebody a book and say, "There, you'll learn everything you need from that."
Yeah.
That follows your point with the knife. I like that.
Maybe a bit extreme, but it paints a picture, doesn't it?
Well, it'll stick in my mind now because I'll use that myself.
So, okay.
You can be a surgeon or a butcher or a mass murderer. Very good.
Oh, yes, yeah. So Janet Adams from Australia. Spirit is not about doom and gloom, but a love, about love and caring. Exactly, Janet. And education is most important. Laughter is a wonderful tonic. The message is often the fact that the love has come through, and exactly. I believe that often. Over the years, I've told my students, don't put that much focus on the message, but focus on the evidence, because the message is hidden within the evidence.
Yeah.
And often that's just confirmation that our loved ones is still around. It's all we need. That's where the healing comes in, because I believe that the healing within mediumship is quite relevant.
Yeah. And then she's put laughter as a wonderful tonic, which fits in with what we were talking about last night.
Yeah.
You know, mediumship should be fun.
Yeah.
I agree what Janet said. It's not about doom and gloom. When we pass away and we enter into the next existence, you go through the worst thing possible. You're leaving your family behind, but then there's always the joyous thing that you're meeting family when you get to the spirit world. So when you come back, the last thing you're going to do is start telling people how you died. They know. If you died of a heart attack, they know you died of a heart attack.
Yeah.
They didn't want to keep hearing you died of a heart attack. I mean, I can remember assessing one gentleman, no names, no pack drill, as they said in the army. And he was training, he was practicing. And he was on about this gentleman had been asphyxiated and had a heart attack, and he was going on the platform.
Yeah.
And this was in the dress rehearsal, as you call it. So when I was giving him his assessment afterwards, I said, some of the evidence was nice. I said, but you really don't need to demonstrate the painful look of a heart attack and asphyxiation.
No. You can just mention
it. I said, I shall be assessing you tomorrow. If you do that on the day, I said, then you won't pass. I said, because there's no need for all that dramatics. You know, the next day, he went on the platform and he goes, I've got this person. He was doing it again. So when he came in, he said, I failed, haven't I? I said, well, I did say yesterday, you're not there. You're not putting a show on. You're delivering a message on behalf of the communicator. So if the communicator's telling you he's got a heart attack and it was painful, just say that he's telling me his heart attack, his last memory of the heart attack was quite painful. If you need to say it, I said, but the loved one in the congregation knows what the father died of. So you could just ask him for something uplifting. They don't. Too many mediums don't believe they can talk to the spirit world. They think they can hear the spirit world and they're just passing it on.
Yeah.
They forget it's a two-way communication.
Yeah,
and the incarnate spirit.
Mm-hmm. And that's brings my mind into a phrase I've often heard over the years: "Just give what you get."
Yeah.
And I'm like, but we have a communication here. Oh, you shouldn't ask questions to spirit, but I believe if spirit, definitely spirit should lead the communication. But if like that coming making me aware of a heart attack, well, why are you bringing this forward? Why are you making me aware of the big sensations, the pain and things? Because there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that is bringing that forward. So maybe just to tell, even though it looked like that, I'm all fine now.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as that. But there's always a reason behind. So ask for that reason.
Yeah. There's a subtle way of putting it, or it doesn't improve your evidence.
Yeah.
Because while you're enacting that, that's taking your mind away. So you're thinking, I'm going to clutch my chest and squeeze my throat. That's taking your connection or your thoughts away from the spirit world. Whereas if you stay with the spirit world, and it's like people say, what do I do when I get a no? I said, well, they know they've had a no. The spirit world can hear. So you just say, that's a no. What's that? I said, and if you get used to when you receive a no and you're nice and relaxed, you get a no, then the spirit world will have heard the no and they'll be giving you the next piece of information that'll connect the jigsaw, and they go, oh, I remember now.
Yeah.
But if you just sit there straining,
yeah,
you know, a one-way telephone call, then you're asking to fail. And that's through, I'm not saying I've always been able to do that, but it's through my education that you learn to do that. And that's not passion.
No,
the amount of people who said to me, well, I can talk to my guide. I can talk to the spirit world. That's why you're a medium. You're telling me you're a medium. That means you're speaking with the spirit world. You're not listening to the spirit world or just listening. You're listening, passing on the information, but it's an intelligent two-way communication between the medium and the discarnate spirit. It's not an intelligent one-way conversation. Otherwise, it's not a conversation. It's just listening. And now they've said this. Now they've said this. Now they've said that. And you can tell the mediums that do that. Because the information comes in little bits because they're not interacting. They're not telling the spirit world to give them more. And this is what you learn. I know we keep harping on about the education. This is what we learn through the education.
Yeah, and I believe it's also about understanding, not just doing mediumship, but understanding mediumship and the mechanics within mediumship. And you can only get that through proper education. It's
from somebody who knows that themselves.
Yeah.
You know, to make anything work, you need to understand the mechanics. I mean, I've got a lamp here on my table to light the room because it's very dark in the UK at the moment with the storms. So I've got a lamp on. But the mechanics of that lamp is I have to put the plug in, turn the plug on, and then switch the switch on the lamp. Otherwise, there's no light. But if that's how I teach to do the lamp, a bad teacher would say you just plug it in and turn it on. That's not the mechanics of the lamp.
No.
You've got two switches on this lamp. There's two switches and a plug. So you've got to teach them, put the plug in, turn that switch on, switch this switch, and you get light. And that's the same with mediumship.
Yeah, and if the light is not coming on, go and check the bulb, light bulb if that needs a replacement or what. Yeah.
It's like your TV. People say you just turn it on.
Yeah.
There's lots of actions you can take with a TV. So for somebody who's never seen a television before, and you say to them, a bad teacher will say, "Oh, you just switch it on." A good teacher will tell them that first of all you have to plug it in, switch it on at the wall, then you show them the remote, explain the remote. This is the on button. You do this, and then you could ask them what their favorite genre of program is and show them how to find that. You could tell them the genetic, and that's the same with mediumship. You don't just say, "Oh, think of somebody in the spirit world and you'll get a message." And then, pardon me, and then you pass that message on. That's not the mechanics of mediumship.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. We have a few comments here. We have Janet. At my church, we as educators has written a mediumship course and take our time to help the new mediums work. We have also written the a healing course. These have come about as here in Australia we are concerned about the quality and ethical people out here.
Yes, I've taught in Australia with Val Hood. I don't know if you know Val Hood.
Yeah, I know Val.
Some of the churches I visited there, they'd written the courses, and that's because of people like Val and others that have been over there. Chris is there. Knowledge is the key. Yeah. Thank you for strengthening what we're saying, Chris. But I've been to several churches out there and spoke to some of the other ministers. Ministers seem to gravitate towards each other, and they've all written courses. So,
yeah, and Jamie's coming in. I agree. All professions have a system on ongoing learning and evaluation, plus emphasis on professional conduct. And what we often see within mediumship, I believe, with mediums is, I'm on the platform now. I'm getting the church bookings. I'm the star. I don't need to do anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that before.
Yeah,
I've sat in other tutors' classes. People who are friends of mine. I've gone to their houses, their centres, and sat in their courses.
Yeah,
because if you think you can't learn anything from someone, then you're not a good educator yourself, because you can learn from your students. And like we're learning today, some of the things they put up, like Chris and Jamie and the others, I can't remember all the names. They've put things up. That's teaching everybody who's watching, including me, like knowledge is power. That's a good thing to use, because I use that myself in some of our courses. Knowledge is power, and it means so much to me that I started a training company. And it's called the Psych Education Research Centre. Every tutor is trained to a national standard. Every assessor is trained to a national standard. And the courses we wrote had to be given a tick in the box from an Ofqual recognised awarding body. So our courses, thank you, Janet. So all our courses have been accredited by an Ofqual registered awarding body. And nobody can take that away from us. And so we're up there with the professional training companies. And that's, I believe everyone should strive for that. Yes, I agree, Chris. Thank you. Mine certainly do. I had to use them to get into Australia to teach. They said, "What are your qualifications?" And when I showed them, they got the Ofqual stamp, which is the Office of Qualifications run by the government in the UK. They've all got the Office of Qualification stamp on them to show that I've studied. And it doesn't make me the best teacher in the world, but it makes me a better teacher than a lot of teachers who are teaching mediumship.
Yeah.
And the same as assessing. I'm not assessing people to see if they've got a link with the spirit world. I'm assessing to see if they're educated, if that makes sense. Yes, it's part of it is they have to give a pertinent message, but I'm not assassinating them by saying your mediumship's rubbish. I'm saying, yes, you've studied, this is where you can improve. And that's how we assess. We're telling people all the time how they can improve. And in our system, it goes from external quality assurance, internal quality assurance, assessors, tutors. There's that ladder. And then that includes every year focus come and inspect us. They want to see our books. They want to see how we've assessed people. They want to see if we're keeping proper records. And we have to pay for that. So it is a start. Asking Jay, how would he change this? I believe that's the start. Somebody's had the courage to go out there and try to make us more professional.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, and as Jim put in even if you have a talent for playing the piano, in order to be a concert pianist, you need education and training. And you mentioned the football players earlier. Everybody that is becoming really good something, no matter of what gift they're born with, it takes a lot of training and education to build on that ability. And having somebody to support you and look at your work, at your way to present things. And sometimes it's not only about what kind of evidence you're getting, but also the way you present them, isn't it?
Yeah. Presentation, platform presentation. That used to be one of the things I used to teach. It's not just about standing on the platform. It's not. One of the things I remember about that, because I stepped back after having my prostate cancer, so I haven't worked on the platform for a couple of years now during recovery, because I always teach people get well first. But you used to see students or mediums and they'd sort of crawl out of the chair, almost afraid to get up, because they haven't been taught how to present themselves. And I used to say to them, when you're sitting in that chair, it should be like the starting blocks of an Olympic sprinter, so that when you're introduced, that you stand up and put yourself in your power. People say, how do I get in my power? And tutors will give them lots of exercises. Oh, you do this, you fill this up and you fill this up. Imagine you're in the glass tube, imagine you're in the balloon. No, just get up with meaning, with purpose, and you'll be in your power. If you're a shrinking violet in the chair and almost dreading the chairperson say, and now we have Jack from Denmark. If Jack gets up, people aren't going to answer. If you get up, not in your power. So yes, you can send your thoughts out to the spirit world, but I believe being in your power is you believing in yourself.
Yeah.
And that should be taught as part of the platform presentation. There's no need to wander up and down so that the people in the congregation are wagging their heads backwards and forwards.
No. I used to do that.
It's okay that you move,
Yes.
at least stop sometime. But you see some of them, they're pacing up and down constantly.
Yeah.
And I know they're shifting, keeping the energy moving. But when you're delivering, stand still and talk to the person. So many people you see, they're looking away and they've got their head in their hands. And really, they should be looking at the person they're talking to.
Yeah.
We're looking at each other now, and the people watching us are looking at us because we're having a discussion and a communication. And it's the same in the church. I've seen people looking at the ceiling when they're delivering the message. Oh, I don't want to get a psychic link. Well, you won't if you're working properly.
No.
You don't need to look at the ceiling to prevent a psychic link.
Definitely not.
So many things that people, you've inspired me. I might write another course and send that off for accreditation. Platform presentation.
Yes. So we have quite a few comments coming in. We have Colin Walker. I'll just jump a little bit and then have Colin Walker that's throwing in quite an interesting comment. What's your thoughts on going direct on to the recipient rather than throwing a message out there during a demonstration?
Okay, so every medium's different, and there's two gentlemen I've known for a long time. They say you should go direct because if my mum's coming, she knows that it's me. But everybody works with the energy different, so at times I go direct. In fact, probably 50-50 go to, but then a general area because you're just aware of the person's energy or not the person's energy, but the energies in that particular area. But you shouldn't need more than 3 to 5 pieces of information to narrow it down, and then you'll see somebody and you go, it's that person. So it's similar to going direct. I don't believe in just throwing it out and saying, who can take this? I've got a Martin in the spirit world. He was a man. He had 2 legs, 2 arms, and a pair of glasses. That's not evidence. That's just a series of facts.
Yeah.
That you're just throwing out there. So, and the other thing with going direct, you have to be careful, because people accuse you of setting up the congregation, some of the skeptics, or that you're going psychic all the time. There's some mediums I know, they go direct all the time and they're very good mediums. I also know mediums who do what I do. They go, I'm in this area. You should always be able to feel the area.
Yeah.
It's very rare I can't feel where I'm going to work. So you have to remember, Colin, that every medium's different. And if you're a direct medium, good luck to you. But at times, if you don't worry, if you're just not sure and you feel, and you think, oh, well, I'm in that area, and the right person will always come to you. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It doesn't mean I'm right. That's in all these things Jack and I are saying are in our opinion, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and I'm a little bit with this going direct, because I'm actually because it has been very much around, we need to go direct, and a good medium should be able to go direct, and so. But when we're talking about presentation, as sitting in a congregation where the medium is going direct all the time, in my experience, you easily lose the congregation.
Yeah.
Because people, oh, it's not for me. They're not listening. And then what often see is, if the medium wasn't hitting the right person and opened it up, nobody have been listening.
Yeah. And they won't put the hand up because you said you were with him.
Yeah.
Or her.
Yeah, definitely. And the other case is what I sadly often have seen now from Denmark. We are seeing a lot online through Zoom and things like that. It's like going direct, but Martin, can I come to you? Martin, would you understand a father in the spirit world? And that's basically all evidence that is coming forward.
Yeah.
I believe, to me, going direct, we'll do actually under the Danish Spiritualist Association, we'll do a little course on aspects of going direct, because you talked about the areas and things like that, but some people are talking about going direct is evidential in itself. To me, it's really not. It just means that something about the person was drawing your attention. It can be like you have your Christmas shirt on.
Yeah.
So that caught my attention. So in my mind, I think I'm being guided by spirit to go to you, but actually it was just your eye catching something on your shirt or something.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if it's not backed up by solid evidence, it's nothing worth, is it?
No. I have seen a lot of direct mediums that are very psychic. That doesn't mean all of them. But,
no.
You know, people talk about people like Gordon Higgins and that, and he works similar to how I've just explained. Sometimes he'd go direct, sometimes he'd pick the area, you know, and it's all about being in the energy, in your power, and you know a general area, but you might not be able to single a person down. And I'd rather give 5 good evidential facts. I got a father here, he said his name was John, he was a builder, and he lived in Birmingham, but I know him in this area. Those 4 facts, father, John, Birmingham, builder, that's going to pick somebody.
Yeah.
You know? And answering Colin's question, the times I've gone direct, it's been very pertinent. I was sitting in the medium's room in a church in Manchester, and this man came to me. Funnily enough, his name was John, and he was talking to me while I'm in the quiet, and it surprised me. I don't know why, because I'm a medium. Because hello, my name's John. Hi, John. Yes, my daughter's on the front row wearing glasses. So that was the information. That's all he said. And I went in the church, and they did the hymns and everything. I was looking around on the front row. There's only one lady with glasses on. So I went to that lady. I said, "Could I come? I'd like to come to the lady here. I've got your father in spirit. His name was John." And straight away, he said, "Yeah." I said, I knew I was coming to you because he told me there's a lady on the front row with glasses on. You're the only one." And the rest of the message flowed after that. And I've done that a few times where they've given me the information in the medium's room, or even before I get to the church, sometimes the day before. I remember doing the church in Wolverhampton, and I was having a bath, not in the church, but the night before I went. So in the bath, I was just thinking, I'm going to Wolverhampton. It's a big church. I'd love to know where I'm going. And they showed me two people, and it was a lady in a black dress and a lady in a red dress. And at Wolverhampton Church, you're going through the back door. I don't know if you've ever done that one, Jack. I know you've been up this neck of the woods. When you come out, you come into the church and you go up onto the platform. It's not until you're on the platform you actually see the congregation.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the congregation, there was a lady in a black coat, and on the other side, exactly where they showed me, a lady in a red coat. So I knew where I was going first, so I picked those, and the communications just flowed. So
yeah.
space drops because they're bored.
Yeah.
Like I say, Colin, you should be able to find them within 4 good pieces of information, 5 good pieces of information. So if they're giving too many facts and they're spieling off a live story before, and remember what I said, I know the area I'm going to, so that narrows it down, but everybody's listening. But everybody works differently.
Yeah.
And if that's the way you work, I admire you. So there you go.
Yeah. And I think sometimes this going direct create lazy, what I call lazy mediums, because often seen, it's not just like anybody off, it's just an observation, often seen, as I mentioned before, because they've gone direct. Oh, Martin, you have father in the spirit, and father was a lovely man, and he's talking to you about your Christmas shirt. So it's this lack of evidence.
Yeah.
That sadly often see with it. Not saying it's because mediums are not able to, but I call it lazy mediumship, because it's like, oh, sure, we don't need to give that much when we're going direct. I've heard people say that as well. I think it's sad, because it should be about spirit and the communicator, and that relation between the communicator and the recipient.
There's pros and cons for both methods.
Yes.
There's pros and against. And
definitely.
What it boils down to is what the whole chat's been, the whole discussion's been about, is educated mediums.
Yes.
And a good medium won't need to stand there. I won't mention names, but I worked at Stansted once, and one of the mediums, one of the tutors on the platform, took 20 minutes with his first message. 20 minutes to find the first message. And because it was taking so long and I was the next to go, I was tuning in with him, and it was a lady at the back of the room, but he was going to lady, then a man, lady, then the man, he was letting the two. And I kept saying to him, "You with the lady." Anyway, in the end, he eventually got a bit of information that the man couldn't take, so he stuck with the lady. But if I agree with, was it Colin, if somebody's taking 20 minutes to find one recipient and they haven't really got to the point of the message after 20 minutes, then
that's too long. Definitely,
it's too long. I mean, it's probably a bad night for him. Even the tutors at Stansted aren't infallible. There's some fantastic tutors there, and he might have had a bad night.
Oh, that happens to us all, doesn't it?
With proper education, if you haven't got your recipient in the first 5, I would, not even 5 minutes, but 5 statements, then you might not be with that person, even if you go direct.
Yeah.
I've seen people go direct and they've been ripped apart because the person goes, no.
Yeah.
And the medium doesn't leave them because I know I'm with you because I've gone direct. Sometimes you need to cut your losses and say, thank you very much, maybe next time, and move on. Because all it's doing, if you get one of those argumentative people, all it's doing is taking you out of your power. All that power you've done to build your power, that's taking you out of your power because it's chipping away at your confidence and your belief.
Yeah. Okay. And Cameron, hello, Cameron, putting up here, going directly to the recipient with a mediumship mission rather than throwing the information out to the group is often seen as more precise and compactful approach. I feel it demonstrates confidence confidence in the connection and helps establish trust between the medium and the recipient. The approach minimizes ambiguity and avoids the risk of multiple persons attempting to claim the same message. However, it requires the medium to have a strong, clear connection to the spirit and a deeper understanding.
I agree in some ways, but I've seen some direct mediums get absolutely destroyed. I've seen some people who, and remember, Jack and I aren't saying that you just throw it out. We're saying that you should be able to feel the energy, go to an area, and within 5 statements-ish, 3 to 5 statements, you should have got your recipient.
Yeah.
Now, if I know I'm with that person, then anybody that's butting in, I say, no, sorry, I'm with this lady. I'll come back to you if I can. And that's not being rude. That's keeping in your power and sticking with that person.
Yeah.
Now, I've said it before. I've seen some fantastic mediums going direct, but even the great Gordon Higginson didn't go direct all the time.
No.
There's other mediums like that. I'm trying to think. Jill Harlan.
Yeah.
And other people like that, some of the London mediums.
Yeah.
I can't think of the lady's name. Brenda Lawrence.
Yeah.
Another wonderful medium. And even she at Stansted, working at Stansted, to give 3 or 4 pieces of information. I feel I'm over here. And then if you've got the right person, then you're not distracted by the other people saying, I can take that, I can take that. Because you say, yes, okay, thank you. Well, I do know I'm here. Because you've felt the energy, you know you're in that area.
Yeah.
It just I disagree with him saying it makes your mediumship more precise. Because as I say, I've seen some terrible direct mediums. That are just psychics.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's nothing wrong with being psychic, but you shouldn't be advertising yourself as a medium. If you're working psychically, you advertise yourself as a psychic.
Yeah. And I believe, as I said, I've gone quite opposite. I'm rarely going direct because of different reasons. But I'm very much focused on giving these 3 to 5 strong statements. So rarely I have a handful of recipients because the evidence brought forward is narrowed down. So no matter if you're going direct or not, the evidence should be there anyway.
This is a tested fact by there's a scientific body called PRISM. Psychic research, including scientists and mediums. That's what they were called, PRISM. This is going back 30, 40 years. And they tested mediumship extensively, and they proved that everybody can take 30%, roughly 30% of every message that's given in a church. So that doesn't matter whether you go direct or you're throwing it out. But if you're giving precise statements, that reduces that 30%. They might pick something up later in the, oh, my dad used to do that. Because lots of dads will go to football matches. Lots of dads will go to the pub for a pint. Lots of dads will have smoked. I'm not male oriented. Lots of grandmas would have, done cooking, would have done knitting, would have gone to football, been a bus driver, whatever. So if you're giving the right evidence, I don't think it matters which way you go, because as I say, I've seen wonderful mediums that throw it out, and we're not on about throwing it out to the whole congregation. If you're a good put it out, go to an area. Fantastic information. I'll say about myself, I've given some fantastic evidence, throwing it out, going direct, doing both. We're individuals, and we have individual mediumistic experiences. And when we start trying to put people, all mediums, into a box, then the talk we did last night about mediumship being fun, it stops being fun, because every medium would be the same. It wouldn't be worth going to see other mediums, because if you've seen one, you've seen them all. So let's not put mediumship in a box. Remember, IMEs, individual mediumistic experiences.
Yeah.
There.
Yes. And Martin, I believe we could go on for hours here, but I think we are running out of time. So you can see we have a lot of comments that we haven't had on screen. But just to finish off, any last comments there, Martin? I know you.
I would say to people, don't be afraid of getting educated. And I know I've pushed our training company, but you don't have to have a certificate, but at least get a reputable trainer. Somebody who yourself has studied for more than 3 years. 3 years in mediumship. People think, oh, I'm getting older. I started when I was 42, and I'm 70 next birthday, which is coming really quick because it's only February, And in all those years, I've studied. I haven't stopped studying now. I haven't stopped writing courses. I haven't stopped thinking of exercises of how to help students. So look for reputable tutors. That way, you're going to give the best service to yourself, to spirit, but more importantly, to your recipients, because it's never about the medium. It's always about the communicator and the recipient.
Exactly. So thank you. So thank you very much, Martin, for giving your time here. I can see people seems quite happy for the chat we had here.
Thank you, Jamie.
So
thank you, Chris.
I'll just.
Thank you. So giving you an insight, Ken, that's great.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm not trying to convert you, Cameron. Just putting over a different point of view.
Good. So, some upcoming things we will have, just follow our page. It will come up there by time. But we will have between Christmas and New Year, we will have another spiritual cafe, but with a Christmas theme. So it will be in a Zoom room where we'll just chat about different things. We had one recently and was quite successful. So we'll do another one between Christmas and New Year. We haven't put the date on yet, but just keep an eye on our page. We will have on the 5th of January, we will start the year off with a live service. It will be a spiritual service where we will just put a focus on the upliftment, the memories of those that have begun before, and just light ourselves up for the new year to come and be filled with that positive energy. And we will continue with our World United services, our chats, educational chats. There will, as mentioned earlier, there will in the new year be some online training circle things. One of the subjects will be aspects of going direct. There will be healing within the mediumship. There will be different subjects coming on, but there will be announced soon about that. So thank you, everybody, and for joining in with all your lovely comments. And yeah, as said, we will be back with different speakers, different mediums to join our live Let's Talk About. So it has just been such a pleasure, Martin. So thank you very much
Thank you very
for
much.
giving your time and your knowledge.
To all
So
the people who've watched us.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
So see you all soon. Bye.